Hey guys, and unfortunately, this is going to be another negative video. Since it has to do with the depressing state of the gaming industry, I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it based on the recent news, because this is just another contributing factor in the gaming industry becoming even worse, and the fact that a crash is inevitable. I just think it's really likely, in my opinion, just with all of these contributing factors happening. And we got the news that Microsoft laid off 9,000 employees. That is just absolutely insane. And that means that 15,000 employees in total were laid off this year. And this means that several games were canceled, including the Perfect Dark reboot, Rare's Everwild, along with many others. And even for the games that weren't canceled, that this is going to significantly impact the development of these games. They're losing a lot of talent, a lot of developers, so I feel like certain series won't fully recover from this for quite a while. This is just really horrible that this is happening. And there's also been like a lot of just really well-respected game developers that have also been impacted by this, like John Romero's studio getting funding pulled, which is just extremely disrespectful for just a legend in the gaming industry. And then there's Greg Mayles, the director of Banjo-Kazooie, along with other games, and a designer for Donkey Kong Country, ended up leaving Rare after over 35 years, which is just crazy, and it just goes to show how horrible the situation is in Microsoft. And the worst part of this is that these people's lives are being affected here. Like, it's even worse than the fact that these games are being canceled. Like, in this economy, it may not be easy for people to find new jobs that pay as well as their previous one, and just things are really expensive for people nowadays. So it's pretty devastating to see like so many people's livelihoods get ruined or affected in this way. It's just really sad to see. And just another slap in the face is that Phil Spencer said Xbox never looked stronger. Just what an insanely tone-deaf thing to say about this, with so many people's lives being ruined here. It's just insane. These CEOs and executives are making tons of money, and companies like Microsoft aren't going anywhere. They're still making profits, they're not having issues at all. There is no reason for these layoffs other than straight up corporate greed. There is just no other excuse here, and it is just absolutely unacceptable. And it is part of the reason why the gaming industry is having so many issues right now. And the thing is, Microsoft isn't even the only company that has been doing major layoffs. That also includes Ubisoft, EA, Sony. Just thousands of people over the past couple years have been laid off, and it is just extremely unfortunate. That combined with several companies like Ubisoft and Activision Blizzard having many allegations of abuse among employees, which is a topic that I don't really want to go into detail in because that's not really my place to talk about it on this channel, but it is horrible. And then there's also the issue of game development becoming unsustainable, and that kind of is connected to the layoffs in a way. And there's too many companies right now focusing way too heavily on making massive games with large budgets. And this creates a huge risk, because if the game they've been working on for several years doesn't sell well, the studio could be shut down, and even more people could lose their jobs. We've seen this with Concord. Like, that game sold extremely poorly. Like, I think it wasn't even like 35,000 copies that were sold, and the studio ended up getting shut down and people lost their jobs over it. But this game had an unnecessarily large budget of $400 million and looked extremely generic compared to a lot of the other games that are out there. So that is just a really big issue that could have been avoided with some better practices. And Now moving on to kind of another issue with the gaming industry, kind of more on the consumer side of it, and this does kind of get into Nintendo a little bit, and that is games becoming inaccessible. And ever since the dawn of digital licenses and live service games, we now have to worry about games becoming completely inaccessible and shutting down completely. Xbox Game Pass is promoting this idea of people not actually owning their games and just paying for a subscription to access these games. These companies don't want you to own their games. They want you to keep paying for a service to keep buying these games or buy a license to it. They don't want you to have ownership. They want to control how you play these games, so you just keep spending money. And Nintendo is even guilty of contributing to this in some ways with game key cards and virtual game cards, since they're promoting the idea of you buying a license to the game and not actually the copy of the game itself. And they can technically revoke access of it from you at any time. So I'm not just saying this as a Nintendo fan, like, oh, Microsoft bad, Nintendo good. Nintendo is guilty of some of the problems right now as well. I'm not gonna keep like rage baiting and just going on like some people are, because I think that is just kind of unnecessary, but I will criticize Nintendo when they need to be criticized, and I think the game key cards and virtual game cards are kind of a part of this problem, in my opinion. And then another thing is games becoming more expensive. Like, the economy is having quite a lot of issues right now, and games becoming more expensive is just another issue. Like, I think these games should be like more accessible for people who don't have as much money, because the thing is, like, I know gaming technically isn't a necessity, but I think entertainment is important for people, and I think it should be more accessible for people at a lower price. With the technology that we have nowadays, I don't think games need to be $80. Like, Mario Kart World releasing for $80 is just not acceptable at all. Like, it's a fun game and I enjoyed it, but it is not $80 good. I don't think any game should be more than $60 or $70. $70 is pushing it, but it's something that I can live with. But $80 is just beyond what me and most other people are accepting. So it's just really unfortunate. And this isn't even just a Nintendo issue. Microsoft is also releasing $80 games now. So this is really an industry-wide issue, and it just makes games less accessible for people. I really don't think there should be this much of a barrier for people to play games. And I've seen some people like who are defending this practice like poor shame, which is just really unacceptable. Like, there is really no defending this. And another thing that I wanted to talk about that kind of rubs me the wrong way is the fact that people say that Nintendo is the main company ruining the gaming industry right now because of $80 games. And sure, $80 games are bad for the consumer, like I just said, but I don't think the pricing issues or games becoming inaccessible with like game keycards are quite as bad as these massive industry layoffs, toxic work environments like in Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard, as well as these unsustainable, just massive games that sometimes lead to studios being shut down. I don't think what Nintendo is doing is nearly as bad as what Microsoft and some of these other companies are doing. Sure, it doesn't excuse anything that Nintendo is doing, but it is disingenuous to say that Nintendo is the main company behind all of the issues in the gaming industry. In reality, they are really the lesser of the evils in this scenario. Not the least of the evils, but lesser than companies like Microsoft, Ubisoft, EA, and debatably Sony. And the thing is with Nintendo, they have actually been doing some positive things in the gaming industry as well. I know that's easy for me to say because I'm a Nintendo fan, but there genuinely are some things that are improving the gaming industry, or at least keeping it to a point where it's a little more sustainable. Like the fact that they are one of the few major publishers still promoting smaller budget, mid-sized games, like a tier down from games like Tears of the Kingdom or Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, but smaller games like Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Echoes of Wisdom, Emio, WarioWare, Metroid Dread, things like that. Like, games, even though they are still like $60 games for a lot of them, they still are like more sustainable, have a decent amount of content, and seem to have a healthier development cycle than a lot of other games. And I'm glad that Nintendo is still like pushing out a lot of these games and really promoting this kind of pillar of the gaming industry that doesn't really seem to be prevalent among other companies. And the thing is, like, kind of moving on to, like, the broad gaming industry in general, even though things are pretty depressing right now, and there could even be something like a crash that happened, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I don't think all things are bad. One thing that I didn't mention in this video yet are the fact that we have plenty of indie developers making some incredible games, like Pizza Tower, Anton Blast, Balatro, Deltarune, Roughing the Riverside, along with others. And these games are really creative. The developers are very passionate about what they are creating, unlike a lot of these corporate slop live service games. So I highly recommend supporting an indie game that you're interested in. Indie games are very important for the industry right now, and they definitely need the support. And then there's also movements like Stop Killing Games that are pushing against these practices that these corporations are doing. Like Stop Killing Games specifically is pushing against companies making games inaccessible, like a lot of these online games or live service games. So it is great to see that people are making a difference and standing against some of these horrible practices that are going on. But anyways, that's my take on the situation. It is just really depressing what is happening in the gaming industry, but there is some hope in a lot of areas. Like, we just need more indie games and more smaller budget, mid-sized games, I would say. I feel like that would definitely help, but let me know what your thoughts are on all of these situations going on down in the comments. And anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!